guys, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Vicki-Lynne and this is Cooking Vegan with Vicki. Today's recipe, creme brulee. That is right, a vegan creme brulee. My all-time favorite recipe, or actually dessert of all time. Now I cannot take any credit for any of this recipe. This is from Lauren Toyota at Hot for Food. If you're not following her, you should be. She has amazing recipes of all sorts, and she has another cookbook coming out in the spring. I have her original cookbook, which was fabulous, and looking forward to the new one. Now, Nikki Vegan, Nikki Vegan, actually changed the recipe a little bit because Lauren Toyota's recipe called for real vanilla beans, which can be a little pricey. And Nikki Vegan had figured that using some vanilla jello pudding mix would actually substitute, and it works wonderfully. Makes his recipe very budget friendly, super easy to do, and it's high in protein. So if that interests you, stay tuned because we're getting into the recipe right now. So the first thing that we're going to need is we're going to need some soft tofu. Now you see where the protein is coming from. I'm going to use a nut bag because we want to get as much liquid out of the tofu as we can. So we're going to put that in. And now we're going to squeeze as much. So it's easier. I mean, you could use like a new pair of nylons, pantyhose, whatever everybody's calling them. I don't think anybody wears pantyhose anymore, but because we're going to want to take as much water, we are going to put these in lovely little ramekins and then torch the top when we're done. So this recipe only takes a few minutes. It's done mostly in the blender, and then we're going to put it into, and you can see how much liquid's coming out. This is the soft tofu. You could probably use silken, but I'm going to follow Lauren's recipe as per. And it was soft tofu listed. So there is a lot of liquid. You could probably do this just in a cheesecloth or a fresh tea towel. But we're just going to keep pushing this until we get as much water out of this as we possibly can. I'm going everywhere. Okay. One last squeeze. And this just helps with the texture. We are going to cook this a little bit. So our thickening agent for this, because normally creme brulee has a lot of eggs, and our thickening agent in this is going to actually be just cornstarch. Now I haven't tried it with the arrowroot. It should work the same. They're usually pretty interchangeable. Okay, so what we're going to need is 1 cup of tofu. Okay. And there's only a little bit left, but you can make a scramble with it, add it to a smoothie to give you some extra protein. Just going to rinse my hands. Perfect. Get that out of the way. So the next thing we're going to add is 1/4 of a cup of some plant-based milk. So far, still really easy. I'm going to add a pinch of turmeric because I like mine to look more eggy. About 1/2 teaspoon of salt, or a pinch of salt. And salt always enhances the flavor, so don't leave it out. 2/3 of a cup of granulated sugar. Now you will need some extra granulated sugar at the end for bruleeing at the top. I'm gonna have an issue with saying that all day, sorry. And then 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. That's going to give it that umami flavor. And then we have coconut milk. So I've had mine in the fridge chilling. And I'm going to try to take out there we go. I'm going to get rid of the liquid so that I can just take out the hard. This is what we want, is the hard coconut milk that's solidified. Okay. So we need a half a cup of that. So if you just take your coconut milk, put it in the fridge the night before, you'll be all set to go. I always have a couple of cans in my fridge for recipes like this because this is how it usually calls for. And then the rest you can, and the liquid you can even use for, I am going to add a little bit more. Make sure we have a good half cup here. Yes. Do you ever have one of those days? Yeah, today's going to be one of those days. But we're going to get through this. It's not very difficult. I'm just choosing to be messy, apparently. Okay, we'll let that. And then 1 tablespoon, sorry, 2 tablespoons of your vanilla pudding mix. And so vanilla pudding mix is actually, well, pudding mix in general, especially, I know that Jell-O, you have to read the ingredients, but are normally dairy-free, which makes them accidentally vegan. And so I think 1 pack would make 2 or 3 of these recipes, just so you know. All right, so now 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. And we're going to put this in our blender. And we're going to start it on low. And you're going to want to push down your sides, or scrape down the sides. Clean off our damper now that it's going. We're just going to make sure our sides are scraped down a little bit. Start. Okay, so we've blended this for a few minutes, so it's nice and silky smooth. Now we're going to transfer it to a pot because we're going to be cooking this to thicken it up and get the cornstarch working. This already looks so good. Okay. Okay, so now we have our mixture in a pot on the stove. We're going to bring it up to about a medium heat, and we're going to just keep stirring this, make sure it's going to thicken up on us. About 6 to 8 minutes. And you're just going to continue to stir it. We don't want any lumps in our creme brulee. See how easy this recipe is? Okay, so this has been cooking and thickening up for about 6 minutes. We probably have a little, maybe another minute or two. You can tell that it's thickening. Just keep scraping down the sides. I don't know if you can see how that's changing. I think we're at right where we want it to be. Okay, so now we've thickened this up. Been on the stove for about 6-8 minutes. We're going to fill our ramekins. Just jiggle them a little bit. Now we don't want to put saran on them just yet. We want them to come down to almost room temperature before we chill them. And then when we chill them, we're going to put in our saran wrap, and you're going to make sure it touches so that you don't get a film. So we're going to put these, we're going to let these come to room temperature and let them chill for about 6 hours, and we'll be back when it's time to hit it with the torch. So we're back. So our creme brulees have chilled now for 6 hours, and now we're going to take a little bit of our granulated sugar, and we're going to lightly dust it all over the top. You want it to be even, because this is what's going to give us our crack, and that's the best part of creme brulee, is the crack that you get after you torch it. So I have tried doing this in the broiler. It doesn't work as well, unfortunately, but it still does get hard. It just doesn't kind of get as even. So we're going to get our torch going, and we're just going to let that caramelize. Takes a few minutes, just be patient, go over it. I like mine a little torchier. Does take some practice. I'm still learning on this. I actually got this torch, again, Amazon, for this recipe, but I have used it a few times actually. You know what's really good too is if you're torching, there we go, you can torch bananas. So you can slice bananas, like if you're making a dessert or just having them in the evening with something, you can actually just give them a little torch and it'll caramelize all the sugar. So especially if they're, so now your custard is going to stay cold, but the top is going to be hot, so just be careful. And I don't know, I'm going to try to come around, see if you can see this or not. But you can hear it. Okay, here we go. Oh, yes. Got the caramelized sugar on top. Let me give it a try. So go over and check Lauren Toyota over at Hot for Food. This is her masterpiece and it is delicious. Thanks for stopping by. And if you're enjoying these videos, hit that subscribe button, give me a big old thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next one.